What's up, North County? I'm your host, Randy Doty, and today we are talking with Miss Defense, Kelley Reeves.
Hello again.
Hello. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you got some cool, exciting news. You are now approved.
I'm official.
You are official. It is officially
It's officially official.
done.
Yeah.
Wow, well, congratulations.
Thank
I bet that was a few jumps and
Lots of
hoops and all that stuff to get
Yeah.
completely done, huh?
Completely done, yeah. But like I was telling you earlier, you've been part of the journey since I was like, oh, I'm going to do this little pre-CCW class. And then it just kind of started this trajectory of getting my firearms certification and getting approved by the sheriff's office to be a CCW provider for the county. And then now with the Paso Robles and Morro Bay, so I'm working on the individual cities too, because how the county works, if you're incorporated versus unincorporated, which we talked about before, you still have to be an approved provider for the cities if you're in incorporated areas. So
Interesting.
chiseling away.
So the last time you were on, there was one of these positions remaining or open.
Yes.
Out of what, 3 total? Or
3 total, yeah.
3 total. So tell me a little bit of what that journey was from the last time when you're like, I'm going to go for it, to now. So what was that like?
It was interesting. So I had to get my certified. So I had to become a certified firearms instructor. So I did that with the NRA, and then I had to go through an application process with the sheriff's office, and then do an interview process, which was a panel of 3 people with the sheriff's office. It was the CCW coordinator, a commander, and a sergeant. And the 3 of them on one side of the table and I'm on the other. So it was a little nerve-wracking, but it ended up obviously working out. And
Cool.
but then I had to get, business licenses, and I just, had to get an LLC, which I did. And so it's been quite the process. And then getting set up with the range and, with all that, because especially in the summer it's difficult because it's low, so there's tons of competitions. So they have like the muzzle loaders and this and then they have campers out there for the weekend, like on the upper ranges. So it's been hard to kind of lock in like dates around because it's a huge range. If you've been down there, there's there's tons of stuff going on always. So it's been kind of tough this summer to lock things in with them, just because there's so many moving parts, but we're getting there, and I'm set in my CCW classes, and I have my second one coming up on August 27th down there. So
Very cool.
Yeah.
So let's start off right off the bat, in case somebody's watching. Tell us what a CCW is. So
it's a concealed carry weapon permit. So in the state of California, they don't allow open carry or constitutional carry like the cool states do.
Right? The cool states.
We
want to be a cool state, but I don't know if we'll ever be
We're
that.
a little far from that, but it's so it's a concealed carry permit that will allow you to carry a lethal weapon, mainly a gun, concealed in public.
And for somebody that would want to pursue that, what would be their steps? I mean, they've come to one of your classes, and is that kind of probably your first introduction to it, right?
Well, I would say do your research first, because it is kind of a process. There's the application that you'll have to fill out with the sheriff's office. It's thankfully an online application, so you can do everything online. The cities are slowly moving to that same process, but for right now, I think all the cities are still like paper. So you go to the website and you download their application, then you got to fill it out. And then they'll give you the steps. So there's the application process. You have to fill that out, have proof of identity, proof of residency, 3 letters of recommendation. You will then have to take my class. It's an 8-hour class per the state of California, and you have to have a minimum of 8 hours, and so that includes the class and then the live fire qualification round. And then you do an interview with the sheriff, depending upon your jurisdiction. If you're the city or the county, interview with whoever is in charge. If it's the county, it's the CCW coordinator for the sheriff's office. If it's the city, it depends. Like here in Paso, there's a commander and sergeant that do the interviews. So, and then you'll do your fingerprint or live scan that gets sent off to the DOJ. And then once the DOJ gives you their blessing and says, okay, you're good, then you get your little piece of paper that says, okay, now you can carry. And it depends upon where you are. The sheriff's office only allows 2 firearms on your permit, and so does Paso, but some cities may allow more. So you just have to check with your city of the agency of who would be your permitting agency.
And I'm assuming that one of those questions that they ask is like, why do you want to carry a gun?
They do,
right?
but it's unconstitutional now.
It's unconstitutional to ask that question?
Well, I guess it's not unconstitutional. It is technically. So
Really?
They had, last year in June, the New York Rifle and Pistol Association had a lawsuit. It was the Bruin case where they sued and said that it was called the good cause statement is unconstitutional, and the Supreme Court agreed. And so now they're legally not allowed to ask. You can just say, I want it for personal protection. They can't deny you for that. They used to have like, oh, well, I have like, for me, when I got mine both in Orange County and here is because I had the animal rescue, and I would have to go to dangerous areas and dogfighting and gang territory. And so that was my good cause. Or if it's like you're in the medical field and you drive around with a lot of, heavy pharmaceuticals, or in the veterinary field, same thing. So now they don't require that, and as a part of the approval process. So they're starting to kind of, in the New York, or the CRPA, the California Rifle and Pistol Association. So California has their gun roster, which means only certain guns are allowed to be sold in the state of California. And they have to meet all of these kind of ridiculous requirements. And the CRPA is now suing the state of California and said that's unconstitutional. Federal judge agreed with the CRPA and said, yes, it is unconstitutional. However, the judge, Benitez, gave his ruling a stay for 2 weeks to allow the state to appeal, which of course it did, because they're not going to do whatever they can. So now it's like in the appeals process of and thankfully, and the thing is the manufacturers who sell here, they have to pay to have their guns on the roster. So it's kind of a racket.
Wow.
It's kind of a racket, yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Well, not only do you do that, but you also do some women's self-defense. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I have a program called Outsmart, and it encompasses kind of all types of self-defense, not just guns. Of course, that's if you want to get a CCW and that's the way you want to go. But again, I encourage you or anybody to do your research. I've had people that have come to my CCW class and pre-CCW class thinking, yeah, I'm full on going to get my CCW, and then they take my class and realize, gosh, it's a huge commitment. There's a lot of training. It's kind of a lifestyle shift. And people are like, I really don't want to have that level of responsibility and commitment. And I'm like, that's totally fine. Let's look at other areas. So I'm really big on self-defense mindset, situational awareness, de-escalation, and avoidance techniques. That's another thing I teach. I am a rep. I work with Damsel in Defense and their self-defense devices like stun devices, pepper spray. I don't do martial arts yet. I would love to partner with a martial arts company and kind of add that component. And I've talked to a long time ago, but Elizabeth Smart and the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, and she has a similar program, but it's just martial arts. So if we could join forces with that. So,
wow.
So that's kind of where I'm at. And I think the biggest part of self-defense is that proactive part, that situational awareness, always being aware of your surroundings. And there was a story that somebody told me, they took my class and they thought they were being followed. They were going hiking in this area and they were the only people there, and this car pulled in behind her. And I would say back into a parking spot. So if you've got to get out, you can get out quickly and just head out. And she noticed a car following her, pulled into the hiking area. It was kind of getting late, and noticed the three guys get out of the car. At first she thought, oh, maybe they're just going hiking. But then she was just something told her they're not going
Intuition.
hiking. Yeah, so she got back in her car, drove off, called 911, and she was like, I don't know, but she's like, if I had been on my phone, getting out of my car, not paying attention, I probably wouldn't have even noticed them. And that's a really big thing, just being aware of your surroundings at all times. And even if it's, because it's between your car and a door, it's how many seconds or minutes that you can not be on your phone, and just being aware of your surroundings. And there was actually a study, they had incarcerated criminals, felons, and they showed them a video of pedestrians walking, and within 7 seconds they had all picked out their victims. And it was all body language, like their posture, were they walking with confidence, making eye contact? And so that's just a huge,
that makes sense.
like those little tiny nuances can make or break whether you get attacked or not. So that's why I'm really big. So you don't even have to engage in physical force.
Wow, that's awesome. But it's awesome that you provide that, because like you said, a lot of women, maybe feel a little, pressured, like going into, like you said, martial arts or something, but you're offering them another way to, mostly up here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it really comes as
Yeah.
far as like when you get into that situation, take the fair, for instance. There's
Right.
people around you all the time to where if you are kind of just forget about around you, I mean, anything can happen there too.
Anything can happen, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but you also do, you do your classes, which is open, but you also do some private stuff.
Yeah, I do private firearms training. More like I won't do a group bigger than 4 just because I want to be really hands-on. And and the great majority of my students are brand new gun owners, and especially the women, it's like my husband gave me a gun and I don't know what to do with it, or my husband has a gun, I wouldn't know what to do with it if I had to. So, and I love, because I had one student, her husband gave her a gun and she showed up at the range and she opened the case. She's like, well, here it is. I was like, okay, well, do you know how to load it? Do you know how to, and she's just like, I have no idea even what to do.
No
and of course
kidding.
the husbands are like, I'm not teaching. You can't teach a wife anything.
Right.
So,
So do you ever have like those funny moments when somebody opens up their gun case and you say, all right, here, and you're like, you can't have that here. I mean, you don't get any of that kind of stuff? To where like, how there's some guns that are now not legal in California that maybe gets, inherited, passed down,
well, you
stuff
can't.
like that.
I mean, so if it's an inherited gun, so it's just really that gun roster is purchasing. So you can't purchase an off-roster gun, say like go to Roosters or whatever and do that. But it is, so my dad, he lives in Georgia, and of course you can get anything there. So he can, so it's up and down. So you can inherit from grandparent, parent, child. It's not like lateral, like you can't get from a cousin or whatever. So if, say, you inherit it or had spouse, you can get 2. So say like my dad in Georgia buys me an off-roster handgun and he transfers it to me. We get it to an FFL here and I sign it off with the DOJ as, a gift from my dad, then that's perfectly legal. So it's just not, you just can't purchase it.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know
so
that.
If they show up at the range with the P365, which is a SIG, which is off roster, then I'm not going to go, I can't have that. It's because I'm not the law. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're going to, okay, well, I guess
do you know how to use it?
Right.
So
and that's pretty much what happens with these ladies, these men, whatever it is that have a new gun, and you're teaching them how to properly
everything.
Use it.
Yeah, I mean, if they have no idea, like this like I said, the one student, you open the case, she's like, okay, here it is. Like, what do I do now? And I'm like, okay, well, let's just start with some basics. Let's teach you how to load the magazine, load it and unload it. And I'm like, okay, here's your magazine release. And she's like, oh, that's what that button's for. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have some work to do.
Oh,
but
boy.
she was adorable. So,
Yeah.
but by the end, so we did all these like kind of the dry practice stuff. So it's like, let's just load and unload. Let's just rack and unrack. Let's just, how do you, if you got a round in the chamber, how do you, do that? How do you lock your slide open? And then going, in front of the target with a completely empty gun and just pulling the trigger and just get the feel of that. And then, okay, let's load it. And I'll swear, it's like, it doesn't matter where the bullet goes, as long as it goes straight forward towards the target. Like, just pull that trigger and get that feeling. And by the end, when they're hitting the paper, and to see how thrilled and excited that they have gone through that journey, and not just that physical journey of, oh, I can now load and unload and know how to drop a magazine and clear a malfunction and pull the trigger. It's that mental, that empowerment, like, oh my gosh, I can actually do it. When they first showed up, they were like, I don't think I can do this. So
what about kids? Can they go through your class as well? I mean, not your, you don't want like an 8-year-old carrying a gun. But I mean, as far as some of your gun classes, I mean, you can, is there an
it's up to
age?
the parents, and it has to have, parental supervision. I do encourage parents to teach their children about firearms. because, I mean, and I know growing up with them, as my parents were in law enforcement, that it gets the mystery away. And if you teach them this is how you properly handle it, and this is what you do if you see it, like, because there have been times when, you know, and I remember when I was little, my mom would come home after working, you know, night shift, and she would just take her gun off and put it on the kitchen counter just because she was tired and up all night. And we would go, Mom, you left your gun on the counter. And so we knew how to tell her, we knew how to, you know, communicate that, we knew not to touch it. But, you know, and that's a big thing, I think, when it comes to gun safety is educating your children from the very beginning as soon as you can. Because and as soon as they're old enough, like, you know, but you really want to instill that understanding of what they're supposed to do when they see it and how to handle it and get the mystery away. So they go, oh, what's this thing? You know, so they got it. And then when it moves on to when is the safe time to teach, I mean, I'll see, and it's so cute, I'll see guys, you know, at the range with their, you know, sons that are, you know, maybe 8, 9, 10 years old and teach them, you know, rifle and shotgun. So, you know, it's really up to the parents. But I do think teaching children, you know, safe gun handling from the very beginning is kind of key to having one in the house. And of course, safe storage and all that. But so. And
I mean, California gun laws are changing probably
every day, every second.
Like they probably changed right now just during this interview. You're gonna have to go find out. You know.
I've got this book. It's like this big. It's huge, and they, you know, they only every time they finish reprinting it, it's
already outdated.
Yeah, so they just have to put out like a little pamphlet with it. So you know, and you can go on the DOJ website. They do keep that up in the Attorney General's website. So,
but in a easy format, is it getting better? Is it getting worse or harder to have a gun?
It's technically, they want to make it harder. So they want to, so you already have the 10-day waiting period when you buy one. Now you can't buy 2 guns within 30 days of each other. So if you buy one today, you have to wait, you know, 30 days so you can buy it again, and then the 10 more day waiting period. So they don't make it as easy as, say, like Texas or Georgia, where you can just, you know, cash and carry. You know, and it really depends also on the gun store. Some are more stringent on their policies than others. So, but the state of California is probably the most difficult. I would say maybe New York is equally as difficult as opposed to, like I said, other states, just because of our politics. And now they want to make it so even if you have a concealed carry permit, like businesses can put a, you know, gun-free zone. So it's like no, you know, shoes, no shirt, no service.
Right.
and so they're going to add a gun to that.
Nobody has that around here, right?
Well, I don't think they would.
I don't think around here.
I think they would.
I mean, I've seen that in Idaho and in Texas. You know, the gun-free zone. Yeah. Which I'll be honest, I didn't know what that meant. Yeah. I was like, okay, well, that's good, I guess, you know, but...
Yeah, well, it's surprising because Idaho and Texas are so kind of, I don't want to say lax, but they're really, you know, their gun laws are a lot more lax than ours. And so, I mean, in Idaho, they, you know, death by firing squad if if they can't, you know, get the, like if somebody's on death row and they can't, I hate to say euthanize them, right. You know, but if they can't to carry that out, then the governor said, okay, well, firing squad. I mean, it's like F around and find out.
Right, so. I like it. You know, but you know, when I was in high school, I used to have my shotgun in the back of my truck, you know, I had my gun rack. Yeah. You know, and I mean, it seemed like now looking back on that, you know, I mean, that just seemed like the norm. Yeah. You know, my truck's parked out in the parking lot with a shotgun and a BB gun. I like BB guns too. But I didn't have to have a permit for that one. Yeah. But when did that change? I mean,
I don't know exactly when it changed in California. I mean, I'm the same way, but I grew up in Georgia, and like I remember in high school, you know, all the, you know, I'd drive into the parking lot, and there would be all the trucks lined up with their gun racks, and you know, they'd all been hunting that morning during deer season, and it was just a thing. It was not a big deal, and I'd have to look back at the history of when that became, you know, such a no-no to have a, you know, gun, and that could now be called brandishing or open carry, which California is not. So you have to conceal it.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's and even with that, like if you are heading out to the hills or something like that, your gun has to be away from you. The bullets have to be in another location type thing to where even if you have them on the back seat, you know, in your bag, your rifle bag, and you have bullets in there, that's a no-no, right?
Yep.
Wow. Crazy time.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not like, and the thing is there's so many laws that kind of contradict each other, and that's where, you know, the CRPA is really kind of digging in. It's like, okay, you say this, but then there's that, and it's almost like you're making it impossible for people to just simply, and law-abiding citizens. It's like, okay, criminals are going to get guns, whether they're legal or not. Just like you make drugs illegal, and guess what? I mean, you know, opioids is the number one, you know, killer of teens and, you know, today. So it's like, okay, well, you're making it so difficult for people to defend themselves like law-abiding citizens, and you're not really, to me, in my opinion, and obviously I'm pro-gun and in 2A, but I don't think they're really making it so that people aren't going to be able to get guns, even if they say, okay, we're going to completely outlaw them, which constitutionally they can't. But it's really not going to, and I think it'll just make things worse, because then you're going to have people that are going to be getting them illegally, and the people that are, like I said, law-abiding citizens that train. And to get your CCW, it's not easy. I mean, it's a long process. It's expensive. It costs about $500. And so if you go through all that training and make that investment and continued training, then you're not out to, you know, shoot up a school or do some harm.
Right.
You're out to defend yourself and your own. So
I mean, if anybody's never been to a open carry state, you know, I do highly recommend that, because I mean, you have a little different feeling when you see somebody walk up and you look up and they have a holster there. You know, it's not an aggressive feeling. You know, it's like, oh, okay, well, so
don't leave them alone.
Exactly. You know, and so it's now it's like we talked about. You know, you were mentioning as far as it's making them harder to defend yourself, and you know, really, we're in that society that we got to defend ourselves.
We do, and like you said, you know, there were studies, and you know, I always do tons of research, and because I love it, but studies on criminals that have said they were less likely to commit a crime if they knew somebody was carrying a gun, or they wouldn't have committed the crime at all. So I mean, that tells you. So it's like, you know, talk about taking a proactive approach. It's like if they know you're armed. And especially if they know you're armed and trained, you're less likely to become a victim. And that's one of the things that I think the gun control advocates really aren't wrapping their head around. And I think, like with teachers, if they knew, if these, you know, mass shooters that are like, I want to go shoot up a school, knew that teachers were armed and trained, they probably would not try it.
Whenever I see the sheriff's office post, you know, that they, you know, apprehended somebody and they, you know, found all these weapons and all these, you know, all these things in their car. And I look at this, like there was one recently, a couple of weeks ago, there must have been like 7 different handguns. There must have been probably 4, 5, 6 different rifle shot, you know, sawed-off shotguns and stuff like that. That's illegal. Yeah, I mean, all these illegal. I mean, everything was illegal. I think the guy was a felon, but I'm thinking to myself, going, is this more to deter them from getting, you know, somebody else taking all their, you know, their supplies, or would they actually use all this stuff? Because that's a lot of
artillery. Yeah, I mean, you've got to wonder. I mean, I don't understand the need to be driving around with all that stuff. I mean, you should have a gun safe and carry your one weapon on you that you're legally allowed to carry. But yeah, so you have to wonder, okay, what are they up to?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, they're protecting their stash.
Yeah, they're in my truck.
So Kelley, tell us some of the other stuff like that for self-defense. What's some of the other forms of self-defense that you also offer?
Well, the other side is the cybersecurity stuff that I do. So, because that's kind of my day job as a cybersecurity copywriter. So, and then I turn that into, so, you know, because another part is, you know, identity theft and hacking. And, you know, I think we talked about this before. You see it all the time when people are like, oh, my Facebook was hacked. And it's like, okay, well, what did you click on? And
right.
So just that type of training and knowing like how to look for a phishing scam, ransomware scam. all that type of stuff. So that's another component that I teach, because identity theft is real. And if you get somebody that really steals your identity, then it can really, mess up your life, your credit, and you have to spend. And I had an incident personally where I was on the phone with my friends at the IRS, and they said, well, you filed this extension in April. And I was like, first of all, I never filed anything in April. Second of all, state of California, because of the storms, we have an automatic extension to October. So I'm like, I didn't file anything. And so then they're like, okay, well, we have to do a fraud report, and then we're going to have to call the FBI and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Let me see if my accountant actually did the filing, and he forgot to tell me before we do all this stuff. And he did. He was like, oh, sorry, I meant to tell you. I just was so busy. And then I was like, okay, fine. Just as long as I don't have to go through all those layers and layers and accounts being shut down and whole new, like, it's almost like you get a whole new identity when and it's really scary. So it's like, if you can prevent that, and then if you can spot like what a phishing scam looks like, and you get texts all the time like, oh, your Amazon account needs to be, whatever. Right. And if you click on that, then you're gonna be. I got one the other day, and it looked so legit from Venmo. It had like the whole Venmo page, like they copied it word for word.
What did it say? Because I got one too.
Don't know. So it said something about updating your Venmo account and your bank information for your Venmo account. And I know that Venmo would never text, and you always got to look at the from, and that's the big thing. If you look at who it's from, it'll have like, XYZPQ 1234,
right.
all these like numbers and everything at like whatever, some random
right.
Domain.com.
Right.
So you got to look at that, and I got also via email. It was supposedly a DocuSign. And it looked just like DocuSign, like they took the exact, like how it would look if somebody sent you a DocuSign, contract. But I'm like, first of all, I'm not expecting it. And anytime I'm doing business with someone, they'll tell you, I'm sending you this via DocuSign. But then I look at the, from, and of course it's some random weird email address. I'm like, okay, this is not anybody I know. Or if it looks legit, and this actually happened, so I just brought on a new cybersecurity writing client, and it happened to be one of the big 4 accounting companies. And they were setting me up on their internal like Microsoft system. And literally right after I was emailing their guy, that's like, okay, I'm going to send you your credentials, I get something that says, here are your new Microsoft credentials. But it just seemed weird to me. So I emailed him. I was like, did you just send me this? And he's like, nope, not for me. I'm like, okay. So,
wow. So
even though I was technically expecting it, I still, like, my little spidey senses were like, okay, I don't think this is the credentials I'm supposed to be receiving. So you just have to be so, like, hyper vigilant.
Be aware.
Yeah, and be aware, because if they get, they get into your system and your computer, it's where your banking files and your credit card files, and especially if it's a work computer, and they have like, bring your own, computer to work stuff. So that's a big component also.
Well, awesome, Kelley. You have a lot of information. Like I said, we could be here all day. I mean, we really could. We should probably maybe even, take little pieces and just, work on that one. Because like I said, the cybersecurity, we could be here for another half an hour for sure. I mean, because that's such a huge thing right now.
Huge thing, yeah.
So
especially with AI, and there's now cyber criminals are using AI to create hacking codes. So
it's insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So tell us how, if somebody wants to reach out to you, somebody wants to see more about what you offer, where do they go for that?
My website, it's on the screen, MsDefenseCCW.com or MsDefenseUSA.com. They both work. You can go to my Facebook page, Ms. Defense. I'm now an LLC, so I feel like I'm an official. So that's the best way to reach out to me. And
then you also have your new outreach page as well.
My Outsmart. It's a private Facebook group, so you join that, and it'll be where I'll post, things like this, or upcoming classes, and then I'm going to do stuff like, here's like a situational awareness tip sheet and stuff like that. And then once I launch my Outsmart, it's going to be an online course that people can take. And there's also, I have the pre-CCW class that I was teaching live, and now that's an online course. So when people are like, okay, do I even want to go through step 1? Then I say, take this and see if you even want to go there. And it's only $47. So it's like, okay, I might have saved somebody $500,
Right.
if they decide they don't want to go that route. So my Outsmart group will be there, and then also support, like, there, women that, like, if they've been victims of assault, or even men, and they want to talk about their story and what they did and their journey, then that'll be a big part of it too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Kelley, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And congratulations on your new position.
Thank you. Yeah, I've got to thank the Sheriff's Office. They've been so wonderful and supportive, and that's been just such a blessing, and the community has too. So, and you have, of course, like I said,
Very
been
cool.
here from the beginning. So thank you.
You're very welcome, and we'll definitely get you back on.
Thank you.
For sure. Awesome. Well,
Yay.
thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You betcha. Well, there you have it, guys. Thanks for tuning in with Miss Defense, Kelley Reeves, and go check her out at missdefenseccw.com for more information. And as always, guys, we can't do this without our sponsors, and we'd like to thank Escalar Wines, Wine Travelers Hideaway, Rancho Sestero Meat Cutting, Visit Atascadero, 805 Customs, Hanson Enterprises, El Red Rooster, Pacific 805 Spas, Story Termite and Pest Control, Paso Robles Furniture, 5-Star Rain Gutters, Airflow Filter Services, Borhone Auto Center, Kennedy Club Fitness, and Amy and Jamie's Place, guys. Make sure you stay safe. Go see Kelley. See you next time.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Veux-tu danser avec moi?
Hi, welcome to Kennedy Club Fitness, where we have something for everyone. We have weights, cardio, group exercise classes, racquetball, basketball, swimming, and pickleball coming soon. Here at Kennedy, we're committed to health, wellness, and community. Stop by any of our 4 locations: Paso Robles, Atascadero, San Luis Obispo, and Arroyo Grande, or check out our website at kennedyclubs.com.
We don't just serve it up, we roast it, distill it, brew it, craft it, crank it, bake it, make it, perfect it, cure it, paint it, live it, breathe it, and then we serve it up. All in Atascadero.
Hi, this is Dave Story, small game hunter with Story Termite and Pest. We're a full-service termite and pest control company. From rodents to termites, we can take care of all your pest control needs. Call today, we can tailor a pest control program that will meet your needs and budget. Contact us at 805-460-0650 or at storytermite.com. Remember, we don't have customers, we have friends.